In this video, I'm going to talk about spiritual maturity. The first step of spiritual maturity is how we can look at how we handle situations. When we compare to how we used to be, or even a couple months back, we can see how we have truly grown in Christ, and we can see how we have more patience, how we aren't quick to anger, how we're slow to speak, how we're not allowing that situation to dictate our emotion and to dictate how we are acting. For example, in my own life, I used to be very impatient, and in situations and circumstances, I would lose it. Like, I would get really frustrated. I would just get really angry, and I would take it out on either objects, or I would take it out on other individuals, and that wasn't great. But I asked the Lord to reveal himself to me, to grow me more and give me patience. And how the Lord works is he'll give me circumstances and situations to actually be patient through. And the Lord gave me these, and it taught me with each one that to gain patience, to gain calmness, to be able to take a deep breath and say, you know, Lord, I'm not really liking this right now, but I know that you are here with me. And I know that you are giving me spiritual maturity. And the next step of spiritual maturity is being able to not focus on the bad, but focus on the good. When we are gaining spiritual maturity, we don't look at situations as bad. We don't look at situations as terrible. We do not play the victim. Yes, is a situation bad? Yes, but the bad I'm talking about is we see it as bad for us. We see it as victimizing. We don't look at it as I'm a victim. We look at it as I'm a trophy. And I'm being developed by the Lord, and the Lord is using this circumstance and this situation to truly grow me and to grow me in my walk with Christ and as an individual. When we don't have spiritual maturity, we will look at every situation, past, present, and future, and victimize ourselves. We'll say, why is this happening? I don't want this to happen to me. Take this away. I don't deserve this. It doesn't matter if you deserve it. The Lord doesn't care about our comfort. He cares about our character. He cares about how we develop. He cares about our spiritual maturity. So I want you to ask yourself, when you're in situations, when you're in circumstances, are you playing the victim? Are you looking at the storm, or are you looking at Jesus Christ? Because too many times you're looking at the storm, or too many times you think you're looking at Jesus Christ, but you're looking at the cloud behind him. And the next step of spiritual maturity is how we conduct conflict and resolution. When we're in conflict with another individual, how are we handling it? Are we speaking without thinking? Are we being quick to anger? Are we being quick to speak and quick and slow to listen? Are we being in a situation or are we being in a situation of circumstances where we're entering into a conflict and seeking to argue, or seeking to reconcile and be peacemakers? There's been times in my own life where I was a beginner Christian, and I would get into conflict, and I would get into arguments. And instead of trying to reconcile, it would be an argument. It would be me defending my position, and it would be, no, you're wrong, and you're going to understand why I'm right. But when we have spiritual maturity, we can understand and see that if we approach a conversation that way, no one's going to listen to each other. No one's going to see true growth. No one is going to feel loved. They're going to just feel the defense mechanism of protecting their own position. And that doesn't do any good for either person. But through spiritual maturity, through having the Spirit and learning from Christ, we're able to go in a conversation and see, why does this person think this way? Why am I feeling this way? What can I do to resolve this? What patience can I have to deny how I'm feeling and the anger and the rightness that I hold within myself, and see, why does this individual see this way? Maybe it's something in their past. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they're afraid of the truth. And the final step to spiritual maturity is how we spend our time. When we have spiritual maturity, when we have more of Christ within us, when we continue to deny ourselves, we are more aware of what we're spending our time. Are we spending our time doom scrolling? Are we spending our time wasting it? Are we wasting our time? Or are we genuinely making an effort and trying to make time to spend more time in the spiritual realm? Through spiritual maturity, through Christ, We put away childish things. We put away that desire. Let me put it to you like this. When we grow older, we don't spend our time playing with little dolls or with little toy action figures. No, we spend our time on newer things. We spend our time in jobs, careers. When we're teenagers, we spend our times and doing homework, doing schoolwork, or whatever you're doing. But when we gain spiritual maturity, we put away the childish things such as ourselves, such as relationships that aren't going to bring us closer to Christ, such as careers that aren't going to bring us closer to Christ, such as ways of thinking that aren't going to bring us closer to Christ. And I'm not even talking about physical things. Let's talk about emotional things right now. We don't waste our time on fear. We don't waste our time overthinking. We don't waste our time dwelling on the past. We don't waste our time victimizing ourselves. We don't waste our time. We don't waste our time by giving time to the enemy when we have these thoughts. But instead, we give our conscious time emotionally, physically, and spiritually to Christ-like things. Glory to Jesus Christ.